Welcome to the Roll Up and Roll Out podcast. Sit down with blue-collar business owners and inspired entrepreneurs to get the industry insights from the leaders that grow our local communities and learn how to scale your business. Regardless of GED, these people know how to GSD. Here is your host, Paul Childers. Let's get to work.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Roll Up and Roll Out. This is a podcast for blue-collar business owners who don't need their GED because they've got their GSD, right? We're a bunch of business owners that just know how to get shit done, and I like to capture the embodiment of that aspect of blue-collar business owners. Today, I've got AJ Capucciniti on here with us, who owns AC Custom Homes, and please correct me if I mispronounced your last name so that you can get that right. I'm terrible with pronunciation. So, but I'll let you introduce yourself and fix any mispronunciations that I had there. And just give us a little background on yourself, AJ, and let us know, just a little bit about you and your business, first and foremost.
All right. First off, thanks for having me, Paul. I know we went back and forth a few times trying to schedule this up, so nailed it. Now, last name, nailed it too, Capucciniti. So I'm AJ Capucciniti from AC Custom. I am a general contractor. I'm vested into a few other businesses as well. I wanted to jump on here because I love your idea, Paul, with the whole kind of like just get shit done mentality, because that's the way I've always been. That's what's got me here today. It's everything from like just getting through school. And I know, like, you say like you don't need your GED, but like literally I got through school by just getting shit done. I did the bare minimum, just scrape by, like my marks are never bad, but it was always one of those, like, I never cared to do it. I just did it because I had to kind of thing. And I think that mentality kind of rolled me into entrepreneurship. And let's be honest, as you know, and probably a lot of people tuning in right now, like that's literally entrepreneurship, is just getting shit done. Like you have a vision, you see an opportunity, you find a hole or a gap and you want to fill it. It's one of those, like, I'm just going to go at it until I make it work. Like you just hustle and grind and keep going. I think that's why not everyone's wired that way. And not everyone has that mentality, the whole, GSD. It's kind of, that's why you have such a high failure rate in businesses, because you have to be wired a certain way. You have to have a different perspective. You have to be able to change your perspective. You got to be able to innovate what you're doing, innovate how you think. Like, can't be scared to knock on doors, have doors slammed in your face. Like, it's a tough road. Like, it's really a tough road. Like, I have people come up to me today and say, "Hey, how's running your own business?" I'm like, "It's shit." Like, truthfully, it is. Like, every day you're trying to solve a problem. Like, some days it's 10 small problems, sometimes it's one big one, right? But like you said, you just got to get it done, right?
Yeah, man. There's a lot of truth to that too. And that's the thing I appreciate really about entrepreneurs. And even more so, taking that a step further, is entrepreneurs that are in more of like the blue collar business, where you guys are crafting things with your hands. You're taking things that are old, rundown, or maybe even not even there, and you're designing it out of nothing, and you're creating something that only existed in a thought, and then bringing it to work with the skill that I think everybody in these fields has a little bit different skills, but the work that you guys are able to do with your hands and your brains and bring those things together, a lot of that stuff gets overlooked, when we're kids in school, right? So when you were younger, did you have any influences when you were younger that kind of led you down this path? Were you already doing things with your hands at a young age, or is this something that kind of you developed later on in life? Like, what did that look like for you?
It really, as far as I can remember, I always liked the whole taking stuff apart, making it better, fixing it myself. Like as young as, like, I remember doing it on like a bicycle. I remember doing it when I started skateboarding, taking apart the skateboard. I know it doesn't seem intricate, like, a few trucks and bearings and wheels and stuff, but like you're screwing around with like socket wrenches and stuff like that. My grandfather, who I was raised by, wasn't big on hand tools. He didn't have many hand tools. He wasn't a handy guy. He was more kind of like old school, like immigrated to Canada, work with your hands with the shovel, or, like kind of like entry level immigration job. I hate to say it like that, but that's what it was, right?
Yep.
He didn't have like all the tools around the house. So I think a lot of the innovative thinking came from making stuff work. Like a skateboard, I had to take a bolt or a nut off. I didn't have a socket set. I just sit there with like needle nose pliers with vice grips on one side, holding it shut, and then a wrench on the other side to spin around a nut, just constantly looking at it from a different perspective and making it work with what I had. So like younger, I see myself like use even stuff like around the house, like doorknobs. Like I'd take them apart and put them back on. Like, take off a hinge on a door and figure out how it works, or learn how to unclip a pantry or a cabinet door. Like I said, bicycles, skateboards. It was always stuff like that. And it was never like geared towards one trade. It was just kind of always like, how is it made? And can I put it back together?
Yeah.
What are the mechanics behind it? I was just always kind of like that, right? I was never scared to grab something, take it apart because I knew I'd figure out how to put it back together.
Yeah. Yeah. My my problem when I was growing up is I knew how to take stuff apart, but I just never really put the attention to detail of putting it back together when I was done with it. So where I fell short was I like to disassemble things, but I never really got to this phase where I like to put it back together again until I was older. So like I was out of school and actually out of college before I actually got comfortable like fidgeting around with, doing trim work and stuff. Like now I'm to the point where I can do all the finish work in my house. Like we took our doors, sanded them, refinished them, filled the wood grain in, and then painted them, and then I did all the trim work and stuff. But like that was always stuff that I told myself like I couldn't do because of my ADHD, because of, I was never good at math, right? And stuff like that. And what I realized as I got older was like, it's not that I wasn't good at math. It's just that I didn't see an applicable reason to use math the way school taught it. So it was a very boring subject for me. But once I learned the applicability of it in work and in creating something out of nothing, all of a sudden it kind of became a very interesting piece for me. So did you have any of those kind of same experiences through school where it was just kind of like really boring and you were just kind of present, but not really applying yourself because of those kind of barriers at all?
Yeah. And truthfully, I was actually deemed gifted in school. Like I was a troublemaker, but like I was deemed gifted. And it was just one of those, like, I don't think it's because I was bored. I just, like you said, I didn't see how it applied to me. And I was very like, even to this day, it's like, unless it gets me from point A to point B, or there's a reason I'm going this way, I have no interest in it. And I think going through school, like you said, like I didn't see how what I was learning was applying to me. I didn't see how I was going to use it. I didn't see like what the point of it was. And that's where I really struggled as kind of like a teenager or throughout high school or whatever it was. It's just, I didn't like it because I didn't need it. And now I find I'm very informative now. Like I love reading. I love like learning new things, but now it's more like I'm learning what I need at the time, or I'm finding a reason to need it. And I think that's what's not translated in schools is they teach you something, but they don't tell you where you're going to apply it.
Yeah.
Like they'll tell you like, you need to learn to do it without a calculator. Well, where am I going to have to do this actual math without a calculator?
Yeah.
It, does that kind of make sense? It's kind of like
Absolutely. Well,
you're
because
learning about English and you're learning about, like paraphrasing or, writing a thesis or something like that. It's like, okay, but where in life am I going to need this? And then if I'm eating at a certain point in life, yeah, I'll learn it. But I think they take away the credibility of the kid where there's no imagination behind the learning. There's no like, okay, well, now I see myself needing fraction because I might become a carpenter who needs to cut bird's mouths or angles, or a finished carpenter who does trim work or feature walls. Okay, I need to know these angles and fractions because I might implement that into work. Or
yeah.
not a tradesperson, I might be the one behind the computer designing this stuff as an architect or engineer. So I'm going to need this stuff. Like, I feel like they don't attach what they're teaching to like why you need it. There's like a disconnect in there. And I think that's why we lose so many students or kids, because they don't have that interest on doing what they need to do because they don't see why they're doing it.
Yes.
There's no why behind it. It's like a parent turning to a kid and saying, you can't have that. Why? Why? Because I saw
You
something.
could.
Yeah, because I told you could. It doesn't resonate. It doesn't work, right? And that's the big problem with that. I think a lot of people that go up in entrepreneurship, they find a reason why they need it, and that's why they make it work.
Well, and back to your point too, like on the fascinating part for me is the reading part, the English part, like comprehension, that kind of thing. Um, they just tell you like you need to read this and you need to comprehend it, but they don't ever tell you where that's applicable. And what I think would really help is here, like you need to understand this at least in a way that like somewhere down the line, yeah, you might be somebody that's a mechanic that's working with your hands, but you need to be able to write and spell correctly and properly, because when you give an invoice to a customer, it needs to be articulated well and in a way that they can understand and be willing to pay you for the quote that you give you. Or if you're a contractor and you're writing out, proposals for new businesses, like, you need to be able to comprehend what it is you're looking at and reading and how it applies to your situation and what you can do to make it a better situation. And even to like as a conversationalist level, the reading comprehension piece is so important, because if you don't know how to comprehend what you're reading, it's really hard to comprehend conversations sometimes and get beyond what's being said. The skill set of being able to hear what's not being told is sometimes teachable. Sometimes it's, you're never going to teach it, but people need to, I think kids need to understand why comprehension is so important. And it's really for those skills later in life when you're negotiating something, to be able to pick up the things that aren't being said, because those things are usually the most important aspects of the conversation. I mean, would you kind of agree with that a little bit on what I'm saying there? I'm sure you've had some experiences with that.
Oh, and 100%. I think with comprehension and everything, I think we don't learn that because there's no reason. You're not put in a situation in schooling to actually learn that. Like, it's very, I find, even like, especially nowadays, there's a lot of hand holding. If you spend half that lesson teaching why you're going to need something and how to absorb it versus actually teaching it, I guarantee a large percentage of those students will be able to do the work on their own. Because they'll see a path. Like, humans need a path. And the 1%ers, sure, like, those guys go off the beaten path and the girls go this way and they carve their own path. You know what I mean? Like, especially in these like entrepreneur groups and everything, you see those people, right? But for the mass population, the mass percentage of people, I think not navigating them to, you're going to learn this. This is how you absorb it. And this is why you need to apply it. You could cut the lesson in half and you'll have a lot more independent thinking, a lot more independent learning. You're not molding just an employee. You're molding, like, I guess, like, how do I explain it? Like, almost like an entrepreneur. Like, you're molding them to be A or B. It was like, well, we're around the same age, I'm assuming. So it's like when we went to school, like, blue collar workers in trade school wasn't loaded.
Not at
It
all.
was it was like university, university, university. You want to go get that corporate job. You want to go get that white collar job, right? That's what's going to pay you six figures and everything. And now look back at it, it's like the tradies are walking on the field starting at six figures, like, right?
Yeah.
And those are the guys that are just in there putting their head down, just figuring it out and getting it done, right? So, like, I think teaching someone how to comprehend something and how to absorb it and how to learn it is, yeah, you hit it spot on, man. Like, that's a missing component there.
I think even to your point, like the way society looks at blue collar workers, I think also needs to have a big shift, right? Because let's be honest, right? Like some guys in the trades could carry themselves a little bit better. Sometimes like the image of the plumber, that shows up, that's a slob with pants that are hanging down and stuff, right? But that's not every plumber. Like there are plumbers that are out there that are running six, seven, multiple six-figure companies. Some of them are running 7, 8, 9-figure companies. But they started by being plumbers, right? So like I just think the overall portrayal and the way that society kind of, when you tell somebody, oh, the plumber's coming over, it's like, right? Like we need to go, oh yeah, plumber's coming over. Like, cool, that's awesome. Like that could be, either that's the owner that's just starting this company or, this is somebody's company that started it from scratch and now he's got, a large fleet. Like that's stuff that, we should be as a society pointing out and, patting him on the back a lot of the times, especially in front of the kids, right? So, because I think that's an important aspect. I know my daughter's very smart. She grabs things. My boy is smart as well, but he's very hands-on. So, like, whenever I see like guys that are out there doing the trade, I'm like, hey man, I'm like, that's something you could do since you really like to work with your hands. Like you could make a business out of that and you could be very successful there, right? Like, and you have the smarts to do it as well. So, so I think that's something too from a societal standpoint. And then maybe you haven't seen that as much, but I think sometimes people just look at that and they're just like, oh, you're a plumber. Okay.
Man, as a general contractor, like 90% of my work subbed out, right? And that's a big factor with us in our company. Like we carry ourselves a certain way. When you walk onto our job sites, you're representing us like a specific way. You're portraying your company along with ours. So like, yeah, we honestly, like, I hate to judge by image, but if you're not carrying yourself well and you don't have good communication skills and everything, like we don't bring you on as a sub. I totally get what you're saying. And it's unfortunate because I'm sure there are guys out there that don't carry themselves well that do great work. But how far is that going to get you when, you're dropping F-bombs and, like you're not taking boots off and, you're not pulling up your pants. Like it only gets you so far, right? Like the work might be great, but if it's parents are sitting there covering their kids' ears as you're working, like it's not something that they want you back in your house for, right? But I also think that's a disconnect that complements what we were saying earlier about going to school and not promoting the trades. I think to the trades people, you don't promote enough of you can do this on your own. You can run your own business and this is how you do it. This is how you need to carry yourself. This is what you need to present. Like these kids are pushed out of school into the trades, which is great, right? But in turn, once they get into the trades, it's almost, unless they have that 1%er kind of brain, they're almost at a dead end. It's kind of like you're going to put on the tools and that's it. No one's taking them under the wing and how to like run the show. Like right now, I have an employee who I'm trying to let be more independent. And I'm slowly going to start bringing him to estimate. And he's blue collar. He is. He wears his work boots. He does the work. He's the one on the tools. I'm no longer on the tools. But I'm trying to mold him and give him that advantage I didn't have on how to construct a business, how to run a business, how to be management from the tools. Because once you're on the tools for so long, you get like molded a certain way. You do. Around those guys, you're around those girls, you're around that mentality, like you're automatically set up to be like this way. So you need to distinguish yourself. And if you don't have it, like not if some people need that helping hand to say, hey, we got to do it this way, or we got to navigate this way, or we need, to present ourselves a certain way. And I think that's something missing in the trades versus what we were talking about earlier, missing in the school. That's something that's not communicated either, saying, hey, you don't always have to just be a plumber. You can have plumbers working for you as plumbers. Do that. And I know some guys figure it out, but like some people sit there and put on this tool belt and think, that is where I'm going. Is that's
My identity.
yeah, they tend their identity. Yeah, that's spot on.
Yeah, it was actually it's actually interesting. I was listening to I've read the book a couple times and now I'm listening to it on Audible a couple times, but Atomic Habits. And in the book, they're talking about how humans tend to fall into an identity and become far too rigid in it to the point that we are no longer malleable, right? And the problem with that then is if something shifts and if we lose that job and let's say we're a plumber, all of a sudden, like we're not a plumber anymore. So we have an identity crisis. And that's not a good thing to teach people. It's good to have a focus and to be proud of what you're doing, but it's even better to be more malleable, right? Like when I was in car sales, the general attitude was you're not a good car salesman unless you're there from bell to bell, right? And I'm the type of person where I was like, well, if I sell 3 or 4 cars in a day, why do I need to stay here till 7 o'clock when my last car is sold and signed out at 3:30 and I'm 7 or 8 cars over my goal that I set for the month? Like, well, why do I need to work bell to bell? Why does that identify me as a good salesman or not? Right. Same with like the blue collar stuff. It's just because you work 22 hours in a week, in a day, right? Like some of them, it's like that. Why is that your identity? Why wouldn't you want to find a more efficient, more effective way to do your work and your business and carry yourself versus wearing that as your badge? So it definitely is, I think, a pigeonhole that they get stuck in.
And I think that has a lot to do with society and portrayal of what a trade is. Because like, even if you listen to some trade podcasts, like they're like hard ass, we break our backs, we go to work, we have beards, we have tattoos, like come home, we have a beard. Like it's like that's the mentality some of them want to keep, and that's the way they want to be portrayed. Oh, I don't want to be the guy off the tools. I don't want to be this. I love being on the tool. And truthfully, like I was on the tools and I was a finished carpenter and I loved being on the tools. I generally loved it, right? But I just learned I wanted to evolve. And now fortunately I fell in love with how to run a business and SLPs and all that stuff. So I'm gearing more towards that. But I think having that, I guess, identity tag to you, it kind of, I got the gears myself when I got off the tools from trades. I'd start coming on jobs with, I didn't have the work boots on, right? I didn't have, the ripped jeans or the Carhartts or this and that. I had like everyday clothes on. And I myself, who ran the company that was doing the project, would get the gears from the trades I got hired on that job. And I'd still get the gears, right? So I get why they're stuck in that hole and I get having your identity tied to it. But like, you just got to like hit the golf ball out of the park. Like you literally got to just hit it and just go for it and just take the downfalls with it, right? And I guess some guys don't want to lose that because it makes them feel, weak, or makes them feel like less of, like, I hate to say less of a man, but like I've got comments like that, like, can you still work with your hands soft, or coming to work to the paper cut, like it's just a mentality on the field, unfortunate, right? And I wish you can turn to some of these trades and say, hey, you swinging a hammer doesn't mean that's who you have to be forever. Like,
Yep.
as you get off the tools, you're going to bring someone in 10 years, that person's going to quit on you and they're going to go run their own. Like, that's the nice flow of entrepreneurship, is like, you're helping people grow. You're helping people become better. They might be a CEO of your company. They might get off the tools, but still work under you. It's I feel like there's not enough pick me up. There's more, tear me down or hold me down in the trades. It's kind of like, I'm better than that guy, or I'm faster than that guy, or that guy screwed that up. And you got to have tough edge, right? You got to have,
Well, you look at some of the YouTube channels and podcasts and the TikToks and stuff that are out there that, some of the popular guys that are in the, blue collar world make, and it's a lot of it is just a portrayal of how, the age veteran treats the, the middle guy, and the new guy always gets kind of beaten on until they're, initiated, I guess you could say, versus somebody grabbing them and taking them under the wing and going, here, this is how we do things. Here's how we, how we go along this process. And I think there's a shift that's just happening in business general as younger business owners. I think we're pretty close in age. I'm considered in the elder millennial side of things. I was born in '85, and my mindset with my kids is I want to get them involved and let them, learn things, but let them grasp stuff on their own as well, and then encourage them in what they think is like what they want to do. But still be there to teach them and not just kind of beat them into like, this is how you do it. Like, you go to school, you go to college, you go work for somebody, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, you need, here's why school's important. Here's what you need to learn in school. But from there, the world is your oasis, right? Like, you go do whatever you want to do and find what you're good at. And then you can start a business. You can be whatever, you truly can do like whatever you want to do. Really almost anywhere in the world, if you're fortunate enough to be born in a free country. Right. And that's something to me that I think doesn't get portrayed often enough, is there's so much victim mentality that happens in the world that people just feel like we can't do anything because we're being victimized. And it's like, no, like, we're still in the US, you're still in Canada, you're still in Europe, like, you're still in a free country. Like, you can go out and you can go do basically whatever you want to do and make money doing it. You just need to want to do it and stop not taking responsibility for, or actually, I should say, start taking responsibility for stuff. Yeah.
Oh, and spot on. And I like how you said that with, you can be anything you want, because truthfully, like, after going off on my own and really, like, and don't get me wrong, the first few years sucked. It sucked. And I never saw a finish line, and I still don't see a finish line, but it's a different, I guess, road now. Like, at first I felt like it was an uphill battle, rocky path, like loose gravel, like I'm never going to make it up the hill. And now that I've figured out some of the in and outs and how to set up a business so you can step away from it, how like big you can actually get and how small the world actually is. Like I was saying, like, now I like the SOPs, the KPIs and all that stuff. Now I'm working into, I'm helping out another trade I work with, and I might be buying into his business, and we might set up a whole back end and run it for him and get him off the tools. I'm like, this might be an idea, right? And I could work with people on the other side of the world realistically doing that, right? But I think people aren't translated. Well, they're told you can be anything you want. They're told, you can have dreams and you can chase your dreams and everything. But I think deep down inside, everyone has this reality check where it's like, well, how do I get there? Or how do I do this? Right. And I'm not by all means saying, I'm successful or anything, but it's not hard to go out and do it. Like, let's be honest, like, you can go out tomorrow, make a website and pay $200 and you'll get a bunch of leads. You really could, like, if you really wanted to. Now, it's something that you're gonna be passionate about, probably not, but you can go and get those leads, right? But you need to understand, like, it starts with small things like that. You might spend $500 and might get $1,000 job, but that $1,000 job now turns into, 5 figures, a $10,000 job. Then that turns into 6 figures, and like 6 figures, people say like 6 figures, you're on a great salary. Like, it's with the economy and, price of cost of living and everything like that, 6 figures isn't a lot unless you're in the mid to high. Like, you're just living middle, maybe upper middle. Like, someone taking a home 120 a year, like you're not living an extravagant life. You still have a mortgage, you still have cars, you still have kids you got to pay for. You're not paying for your kid's school on a $120,000 salary.
Help.
Right? Let's call a spade here. You're not, right? And I think
Exactly.
people just can't see themselves getting out of that hole, and they can't imagine themselves exceeding past that and saying, "Hey, anything I think of is possible. I can build $1 million business."
Yeah.
And you on like social media now, like guys are building $1 million businesses like that, right?
Mhm.
I think people just aren't convinced from society that you can, because you either get the guys that made it up on top that are, coasting, saying, "Hey, yeah, it's easy to do. Here, buy my program and do this, and I'll get you there." But then you have the other people saying, "It's a lot of work and it sucks, and you're never gonna sleep and you're never gonna see your family, and never gonna do this, but you can make it." There's no one in the middle say, "You're just consistent with it, like you'll get there."
Yep.
Right?
And to your point too, like I always say there's kind of like two paths to, your success. And really one of those is defining what success looks like for you. Cause, I've talked to a couple guys that, they've got a company that does, 300 to $500,000 a year. And they really only work because of the way they get everything set up, maybe 4 days a week, 3.5 days a week sometimes. And they're netting and taking home, around that like 80 to 100K. And they're absolutely content because they own everything. They don't have any debt. They have enough to have their toys. They have land. They can go on vacations when they want to. And I think that kind of gets glossed over sometimes as well when everybody's out there going, "Oh, you got to scale your business to exit at 9 figures." And it's like, well, no, that's not for everybody, right? Like that's the beautiful part about blue collar, and really any job, you want to create out there is, heck, maybe you find that, making $350,000 a year is absolutely ideal for what you're doing, and you can do everything that you want to do as a person. And to me, that to me is a definition of success, is defining what it is that you want out of life and being able to work to support that area of your life and not worry about anything else. Like, because success is always going to be different for every person. But if you're happy doing what you're doing and you've got the incomes and the means to take care of it and do those things, that's great. That's what we should all strive for.
Yeah, and I don't think that message is portrayed enough, where it's in the middle. It's either hustle and grind and work your ass off and disappear for 6 months and you'll come back a better person, or, it's easy. Just buy my program. You'll make 7 figures tomorrow. Like there's nothing in the middle where it's kind of like you can make a business, have people work for you, put in 10 hours a week and live the comfortable life. Like I feel like it's, the quick road or it's a super successful road. And there's nothing in the middle there. Just kind of, and truthfully, that's my goal, is like with one of the guys I'm working with now, is just to get him in that middle ground where he's off the tools, income's coming in, he doesn't have to do much day to day. And from there, it's kind of like he has that comfortable life, right? And I think that's where entrepreneurship's kind of beautiful, because you get to that stage and you start thinking of what else can I do? Because you break that glass ceiling and you raise up the floor a little bit, where you're kind of like, okay, now I'm standing taller and I'm seeing more of the world and there's no more ceiling on top of me. Like if I can do this, I can also do this. And it opens so many doors. Like when I first got into entrepreneurship, I don't know how you felt. It was like, I'm at rock bottom. I'm just getting by. This is a big gamble. I don't know if I'm going to make it. And then it's like, you're looking up. It's like, oh, I want to be here.
Yeah.
You don't realize there's like, checkpoints along the way that make you happy. No, but like it makes you happy. Like you get to halfway up the mountain, you look around, the view's better. Let's be honest.
Yep.
You might not be at the top of the mountain. You might not be 7, 8 figures, but you're happy because you can look down the hill and say, like,
And that's taken care of. You've got time to do what you want. Your necessities are all taken care of. But yeah, I 100% agree with that. And coming up on my first full year in business, I definitely feel that, right? Like I'm to a point now where I've got momentum going for me. Things are falling in place, but the faucet hasn't turned on yet. And I think sometimes when we're in that spot, it's really easy to like be negative about our situations, right? Because we are in a grind. There are aspects of your business throughout all of business that is going to turn into a grind. And then there are phases where you can kind of step back and breathe and appreciate what you do. And maybe you find that plateau where you just stay. Nobody tells you that you need to go back and put your nose to the grind if you get down a plateau and you're comfortable there, right? Like that's okay too. So
Going back to your car sales, right? Sorry to cut you off there, but that's another reason. Is like you were comfortable selling those 3 cars that day and not staying till 7 p.m. Right? But then the owner of the dealership's like, no, you have to stay till 7 p.m. because you have to go this high. You have to keep striving. You have to do more. It's kind of like as an entrepreneur, you make that choice,
yep.
right?
Yep. And you don't need to listen to everybody that's out there that tells you if you're not waking up at 2:30 in the morning and doing all these routines and stuff, you're not successful, right? Because success is defined by you, the individual, not the others around you. So that's my kind of final take. As we got just last couple of minutes here before we got to end it. So what's one takeaway that you would like someone that's listening that you've maybe learned through your experience, that you would have wished you would have learned sooner, or something that you've learned now as you've gotten further along that you feel would be an advantageous thing for someone kind of maybe in a similar position or, just starting out their journey?
Someone starting out your journey, one, it's going to be lonely. So find a circle that supports you and that you can relate to. That's one thing I had a big problem with is kind of, I felt like I was the outcast. I felt like we said earlier about your identity. I feel like my identity around the people I was currently with was, well, AJ, you work so much, or AJ, part of the contracting company, and AJ, the entrepreneur. Like, you need to separate yourself, unfortunately, from that because it does get lonely. But you need to put yourself in a circle of people that are like-minded like you. That will take you a million miles faster and further because those people will help you streamline where you need to get to. They'll help you through problems. Like, if you're around the right group of people, they don't want to see you struggle. They don't want to see you kind of, take longer than you need to. They want to prevent you from making mistakes. So like that's a huge one. And honestly, just don't give up. I know it sounds so corny saying that, really, but like there's always going to be a problem. There's always going to be struggle. Like when I first started, and I'll use myself as an example. When I first started, I'm like, oh my God, am I going to make a paycheck? Like my first job was putting together a cabinet for $300. If I didn't do that, I would have missed a mortgage payment.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So like that was a struggle. Then I got to the point where, I had to hire 2 people or 3 people and I'm like, can I pay their salary? That was a struggle. And that's a big overhead, right? And then it's like, oh, I got to put a second van on the road. And then you get to that plateau area where it's like, oh, I'm comfortable. And your eyes open and say, hey, what else is out there for me? And I ended up buying into another business. So I was good comfortably with money. And then I buy into another business and now I'm looking in the sofa cushions for extra change.
Yep.
Now it's not a bad problem to have, but there's always going to be a problem. They also just ride it out, enjoy the ride, you know what I mean? And just don't give up because like, no matter, even if you think you're getting through this problem, you're going to hit a win when you overcome it. And then you're going to hit another problem. And it's almost like, have you ever looked at a stock quote? You look at it over a year, it's gone up. It's a nice linear line, right? Then you zoom into 6 months, it's a little bit squiggly. And then zoom into like 3 months, it's even more squiggly. But from the big perspective, like it's a straight line. It wasn't that bad. You know what I mean? So
Nope.
I don't know, that's what I mean by like not give up because like, the sun's always going to shine, but the moon's always going to show too, right?
Yep.
So,
You still got to do the day to day. You still got to show up. You still got to do the work. It's not always going to go the way you want it to go. But the fact of the matter is, as long as you're taking one step, as a friend of mine, Zach Williams, says and wrote a book about, is you put one foot in front of the other, right? Every day you just wake up, you put one foot in front of another, and all of a sudden you look back, a year in, 3 years in, 5 years in, you look backwards and you go, wow, like I had no, you just do it and you don't realize how high you've soared, and you take a moment to appreciate that. So, man, I appreciate you coming on my show and sharing with us.
anytime, man.
I I love the business owners that I work with. I get to deal with every day, and every time I'm out there listening to podcasts and stuff, I feel like people don't share, almost kind of like the behind the scenes of what it actually means to be a business owner and, really just running your own business and company and kind of the mindset it takes to do that. We always kind of glorify it and highlight the aspects of, yeah, we're grinders, we're hustlers, we're out there, we're balling, we're up at 3 a.m. every day, we're working out every day, blah, 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 blah. That's not the truth. The truth is we're all unique individuals and our struggles are all unique and, unique to us, but we all are out here for the results that come with it and the gratification that we get from doing really good work for our customers and ourselves.
I love it, man. No, I'm super excited to hear this episode when it comes out. So no, I appreciate you having me. So as soon as you put it out there, I was all over it. I'm like, got to get on this guy's show. So no, I'm super excited about it, man. Congrats on the show. Congrats on everything. So guess I'll see you a little bit later on. And
Sounds good. So thanks then. And thanks for listening to the show. This is another episode of Roll Up and Roll Out. If you want to be on the show, you can always reach out to me on Facebook and DM me. It's at Paul Childers. Feel free to reach out. Otherwise, the show will be coming up here, release, and keep looking for new episodes. Thanks, guys.